This video is intended to describe a light cuff set named Miracle. Joining me today on my crystalline tour will be my whimsical stick figure chakra map for visual guide reference stimulation Q, as well as this Terra Nueva New Earth Portal talisman, which will play an intrinsic role to show a certain component that's concealed in leather. Okay, so also as a preface, describing one cuff is identical in every way to the other as much as absolute possible. So they have the exact same vibratory output sequence, which makes them compatible for both left and right wrists in this capacity. Okay, so like I mentioned, describing one will be describing the other pretty much impeccably. So I'll go ahead and flatten this down for the dissertation's sake to talk about the concept. So first things first, the reason they're called Miracle is based on a certain vibratory ignition ratio. Starting off with red to orange to yellow to green to blue to indigo to violet, which is basically, of course, the entire chakra column stimulation in unison in one closed-loop ignition sequence, which in theory would keep the peak optimum frequency of the entire chakra column fully ignited as a miracle ratio, if you were to have that much light ground through. So starting off with the blade band seen right here, with rutilated quartz to serve as a neutral acceleration of the energy. Going into red jasper, which is a quintessential earth frequency, root chakra stabilization. Rutilated quartz, once again, which is the neutral ambient of the energy projects through the rutile quartz in the circuit, closing the sequence. To intensify and amplify into ruby, the quintessential root chakra stimulant. Then going into carnelian, the classic Egyptian utilized sacrum stimulant. Going into tiger's eye, a fantastic aligner of the lower three chakras of both earth and fire frequency to align the lower three. Then transitioning into peridot to be a fantastic third and fourth chakra stimulant of great growth and abundance. And of course, emerald, the quintessential frequency of abundance, the idyllic green ray physical heart stimulant. Going into its cousin, aquamarine, right here, the water elemental fourth and fifth stimulant of the same family of beryl, so they're cousins. A very smooth transition. Into the lovely, famous turquoise, to be an impeccable fifth chakra focus of the entire elemental spectrum. Then going into the lovely, legendary lapis lazuli, seen right here, a lovely fifth and sixth chakra stimulant of wind elemental composition, and of course the Egyptian mystery school utilization. Then going into the royal blue sapphire, just like lapis, to be a very powerful wind elemental 5th and 6th chakra stimulant. Then, finally, going to amethyst, the classic purple ray crown chakra stimulant. And so on, completing the sequence. So that's basically the miracle blade band ratio to be a pretty intensive high yield of the entire full spectrum of light that, of course, when in consistent perpetual momentum, would stimulate the entire chakra column, putting thus the miracle ratio. And before I go further, I'll describe these fantastic platforms, these coins right here, that this entire construct is based off of. So this right here is the love child of the wonderful Wizard of Sedona, Mr. Stephen Ross, who has developed these love currency coins. So I've had the privilege of doing many vibrational engineering augmentation to this platform. And so this serves as another rather dramatic foray in that expansion, particularly in a cuff format for the recipient, who quite literally is a world traveler with a fantastic vocation. So that's very, very cool fact. So what's important here is the archetypal message being exaggerated with its own frequency is to do all actions with love, in love, and through love. And how to maintain that is to have a beautiful heart, an open mind, and a humble spirit. So these timeless, amazing messages have now served as the foundation of pretty exotic yield frequency broadcasting devices in many renditions thus far. And to keep things relatively simple for the coin face so that the message is unobstructed as possible is just the simple placement of moldavite seen both here and here. So moldavite is the quintessential green ray dharmic accelerant of very powerful spiritual connotation, which is a very, very powerful heart chakra stimulant of very high source alignment that is quite dramatic in its effect to, of course, bring one's energy heart in connection to the source of creation, or basically their highest dharmic destiny into physical manifestation. So by itself, it can be, I consider it a rather volatile frequency, which is very hard for the false self-identity to endure these massive shifts internally and externally simultaneously. Hence, actually, it's become quite infamous in this day and age from various social media platforms for this stone being very hard on people's lives. But as a contingency, these small doses run through an entire subroutine that's quite complex and meant to be stabilized to mitigate the timeline whiplash of tremendous spiritual high-yield frequency. And to truly assist with that concept is something called the transmutation ratio, which is installed, of course, on both. Like I said, when I speak of one, I'm speaking the other one pretty much identically as I possibly could do with my bare hands to make them as identical as possible. So the transmutation ratio is a subband seen here and here, which is actually underneath this entire full spectrum ignition sequence. So the aspect of the transmutation ratio plays a rather critical role in the lightblade construct for utilitarian practical utilization. So, starting off right here will be hematite, which is a fantastic iron-based mineral that is very powerful for taking all stray radial energies, grounding through the root chakra, pulling all excess energies very firmly through the root, into the earth stars, into the earth for reprocessing. So that's a very powerful way to also serve as a contingency to take all the excess high yield frequency, most importantly, ground it into earth for the tangibility of the magic, if you would, to of course make it real by firmly anchoring this entire exotic high yield power plant into the earth for reprocessing. And joining on that exact pathway would be smoky quartz as a subcapacitation agent to further ground all the excess energy through the root, just like hematite, through the earth stars, the chakras beneath the feet, into the earth for reprocessing, which works as a fantastic way to take all excess energy, firmly ground to the earth for energetic dialysis, if you would. And like I mentioned thrice, very important contingency for a high-yield platform to indeed arc all the excess energy into the earth for tangibility and comfortability of the high-frequency yield. And like I said, to make the magic real. Then right here, to make this exotic transmutation ratio slightly varied from typical, would be iron pyrite. Iron pyrite is more of a yang masculine variety opposed to hematite, both iron-based metals, yet hematite is more androgynous in the feminine and masculine output or intake and output. But the pyrite's very special for actually being a lovely iron-based director of frequency, which makes it very practical for actually grounding high frequency energy into broadcasts of intention, if you would. It gets very meta, I know. As well as it's a fantastic insulation of one's energy to, of course, fortify one's energy reserves on their endeavors as they're following their path. So that'd be just the blade band seen right here, the topical miracle, which of course is designed to be the full spectrum alignment as evenly as possible, to have the full ignition sequence of the full spectrum, but most importantly, to take all that excess frequency energy and actually ground it into the earth is taking this entire full spectrum range and bringing it through the earth, which is, like I say many times, is the foundation of tangibilizing magic, if you would, is actually firm grounding. And so the aspect also why this little Terra Nueva New Earth Portal Talisman is joining me for illustrative purposes. Against the leather cuff seen right here, there actually is a fully functional power pack under here that's very hard to see because it's very well concealed at this point. So I'll have to basically use this guy as proxy for a very comprehensive dissertation. So there is indeed a power pack that is installed against the leather, which is very well protected. That's a very simplistic Terra Nueva power pack on the backside of these augmented love currency platforms. So the aspect of the Terra Nueva blade band seen right here will be described with this guy by proxy. So right here, of course, you have clear quartz to be a neutral accelerant of the blade band, then going into, most importantly, moss green agate. Moss green agate is an incredible terrestrial green ray stabilizer of water element in the mineral kingdom that brings a tremendous stability to the heart, which of course is the governance of our circulation physically and metaphysically for energy purposes. This is like the main engine of a human avatar. So having the strong stabilization of that obviously has a lot of positive, most importantly, stabilized merits to be a very powerful longevity induction. So in this rendition down here, not represented here though, is actually Between the clear quartz, the moss green agate, there also is golden healer quartz, which is a very important aspect for the New Earth portal, seen much like this right here. It's a very powerful gold white light source energy alignment frequency. That is what is based on the concept of Terra Nueva, the New Earth portal. So that capacity of having the terrestrial physical stabilization heart with the transference of the golden white light source central sun emanation, it makes, in theory, a new Earth portal to have the high frequency source energy, that's a very powerful high heart stimulant, in conjunction with the ignition sequence seen right here, to indeed stabilize the transference of source energy into the terrestrial realm of tangibility as much as possible. This mineral, particularly employed of moss green agate, to stabilize that source energy through the entire system, which is very important because when it comes to using certain analogies or words to describe the work I do, my favorite word probably is tangibility because it makes things real, and also when it comes to application of these vibrational engineering endeavors, my second favorite word would be stability, because the stability and the equilibrium, of course, is what the ideal is of mastery and the alchemical journey. As far as I'm concerned, to be stable in this whole aspect is a big prerogative as well. So that's where moss green agate does a great job of being a tremendous heart chakra stabilizer with all this source energy transferring. And of course, there's a few more exotic elements underneath the leather seen right here. Try to see if I can find them for dissertation's sake, but I of course can talk about them. So down here against the power pack, so the power pack in here is actually developed around a clear quartz and a selenite with the beads around it in a perimeter that has black and blue kyanite on both sides of it. So the clear quartz obviously works as the main programmable engine of the construct, or the neutral resonance to indeed certify this to be consciousness-assisted technology, where the prayer and impulses of the wielder, of course wearing on the right and left wrist to close the circuit as designed, is to have the prayers or intentions run through the entirety of the circuitry that is in tandem with the higher aspects of one's magic, if you would. In a very complex insulated subroutine, basically. And so that's where the clear quartz plays a critical role. And so next to that, inside that blade band, would be the selenite. Selenite is a tremendous master healer in the frequency mineral kingdom as by itself that serves as a tremendous 6th, 7th, 8th, all the non-physical chakras back to one's godhead, which can be considered a tremendous gateway key to one's highest self-perception into the conscious self. And by itself, with that high frequency induction, makes for a fantastic high divine transmutation to run through the entire system to burn off any stagnant energies from top to bottom. So by itself, it's truly a quintessential master healer. But the aspect in a spirit tool or light tech design, where it plays a very critical role, is all these frequencies mentioned thus far, they run through the frequency purification filter of that subroutine. And it can take all these frequencies and it can purify all of them in a closed loop circuit. It can as well amplify or intensify the entirety of the circuit, and most importantly perhaps is also bring harmony and equilibrium to the entire frequency, of course, to bring a cohesive vibrational pattern. So when you have the trifecta of the amplification of the entire grid of the scene so far in a closed loop circuit, then the purification obviously is very inherently important. Then the harmonization, that's why I always call a triumphant trifecta for a functional spirit tool in that capacity. I do love that part of these videos because I feel it's a very fantastic comprehensive capstone. So I usually save that for last after a crystalline rant of great notoriety, because it really is a nice little cherry on top for peak functionality of this construct, if you would, to ensure that it's ideally vibrating in the ideal service to the recipient, which is my life's work prerogative. Okay. So there's one more component down here on both of these guys. Actually, there's two more I need to discuss. I'm just trying to see if I perhaps can find an angle to show it in the camera, but I guess I'll have to do it freehand. So, down here against the power pack is a very special stone called fulgurite. Fulgurite actually is petrified lightning. That is the product of lightning striking sand, literally carrying the energy of lightning through this whole subroutine, wire wrapped to the primary wire. So the aspect of fulgurite being a literally lightning cotton sand frequency, literally lightning in the bottle in crystalline format, is a very powerful full light body activator and a classically utilized shamanic spirit tool of First Nation tribes particularly to be in touch with the forces of lightning to intensify their prayers in service to creation or to the tribe, for example. So that's very prolifically used for intensifying shamanic prayers. So obviously having the full light body activation of literally lightning going through the entire system also, of course, raises vibration very intensely and intensifies one's manifestation capacities based on shamanic utilization. Then, next to that, supporting that would be black tektite. Black tektite is a product of a nuclear meteorite impacting sand, which carries that extraterrestrial jolt into creation. So black tektite, luckily being a very powerful black ray grounding stone, is a very powerful vibrational fortification agent to ensure the vibrational patch is increased through the entire auric field. But luckily, since it's a black ray frequency, it's a ground Earth star up vibrational threshold increase, which is very practical and useful for having a higher frequency vibration, in theory be a higher frequency healthy avatar in tandem. And I do believe that actually would be the entirety of the crystalline composition notarized in pretty short order, actually. I expected this video to be much longer, but I guess, yeah, coherent, consolidated, and concise won the day today. So anyhow, okay, so as a summary, obviously these are meant to be worn on both wrists in tandem for the intake of the energy as well as the output, simultaneously closing a circuit in tandem. So obviously that would be a very powerful way to have a very strong energy overlap from the intake of energy reception, then the output simultaneously. And like I mentioned, at least thrice, these are identical as absolute possible to be the exact same vibratory output, so that they can be worn on either wrist. They're not wrist dependent. They're very universal, and to be worn as a set to tremendously insulate the auric field with, most importantly, of course, the grounding aspect to bring the entire continuity into the tangibility range is a prerogative, but also to have the entire chakra calm illuminated in sequence for the entire chakra calm in unison is, in theory, the realm of being in the miracle ratio, to have the entire light spectrum fully engaged at one stimulation, of course, running ignition sequence like so, would stimulate the entire chakra calm, most importantly in unison, in balance, then to ground it, then to have the new Earth portal to stabilize it. So at the time of this video too, there are a good few of these Terra Nueva New Earth portal constructs that have entered the scene, and have performed very well in the capacity of truly stabilizing that source energy. So having the Terra Nueva Power Pack also serves as the main engine or heart of these constructs, but also works to be a tremendous other frequency layer to, most importantly, take this entire frequency pitch and brings great stability to the heart chakra in tandem with source energy to stabilize the source energy into the field for practical magic that's stabilized, essentially. I know, of course, I'm repeating myself, but some of these aspects are really worth re-notarizing for the intended construct of these miracle cups before me. And that would be all the elements in conjunction working together to be the most idyllic wrist mount platforms possible in service to the recipient, who, like I mentioned, is a world traveler who does a lot of exploration and a lot of discussions with many, many souls. So, be very useful and practical, God willing, boon to her quest as she follows her path and continues her journey in that capacity. So that would be that, and I believe that would entirely sum up the concept. I'm pretty sure. Okay, and of course they're mounted on adjustable leather cuffs, which have been actually saturated with essential oils upon the construction to have the leather hold the delicious smell of the essential oils I utilized. That could, of course, work as a very fantastic olfactory stimulation, as well as a way to have a nice vibrational augmentation of sacred oils employed, essentially, too. So there's a lot of complexities to all these, but I believe that would be it. Besides, I'm glad I remembered this. The kyanites on these guys right here on both sides, this will be the absolute last dissertation, I believe. So both these power packs, much seen like right here on this guy for dissertation's sake, are black and blue kyanite. So black kyanite is a very rapid bridger of energy through the root into the Earth stars, into the Earth meridian mixture for processing. So that's a very powerful agent to rapidly bridge all the excess energy into the Earth at a very reactive rate, because the kyanites in general are probably the most powerful and quickest energy transference agents in the mineral kingdom. So by having the black kyanites installed also takes all the excess energy and makes sure it firmly grounds into the Earth to intensify the tangibility of magic, and also work like a surge protector to ensure the high frequency pitch is always getting to the Earth no matter what, at a very rapid auto-reactive transfer. Then the blue kyanite in there is also very powerful for transferring energy through the 6th chakra, which of course is the idyllic platform for the left and right hemispheres of the aka awakened third eye with no cross interference. So the aspect also of having the transferability of the blue, it would also serve as a very powerful agent of diplomacy, which would be very much in service to the recipient's vocation of literally talking to a lot of people. And so having the way to bridge the energy between two disparate aspect parties is also the kyanite's gift as well. So that aspect also builds bridges of light between two different parties to have the optimal equilibrium energy between the two for the maximum exchange. Yes, the kyanites get quite metaphysical to discuss and give very rabbit hole territory, so I do my best to mitigate my digressions and keep it consolidated and somewhat comprehensive and coherent, because I know these concepts are quite far out. I take full responsibility for that. And yes, that's where the kyanites really shine too. And also the kyanites in there work as a fantastic another layer of etheric Teflon to ensure the frequency pitch is auto-calibrating to the ideal spectrum of this vibratory output, to ensure the grounding contact patch is always rapidly grounding and basically auto-buffering the frequency field for any receptive energies that would not be of the ideal template, in theory, of the higher stone blueprint exaggerated by these cuffs in intention and design. Well, that would be it. I pray that everybody has a miraculous day, 1,000 blessings, and may the force be with us all.